This video is sponsored by Skillshare. Boo-hoo, nobody wants to work anymore, says your clown retail store manager from his throne on wheels. But what they don't know is that this generation is redefining the very idea of work and employment for the better, and Skillshare is here to help. With Skillshare, there is such a vast array of different courses to consider that no matter your own personal goals, Skillshare can help you to achieve them. And these aren't just applicable to the workplace, you can use these to gain greater control of your career, work for yourself, start your own business. Here are some great courses that I recommend. Creative confidence and silencing your inner critic. The amount of people that have come to me saying, "Pup, I want to be a YouTuber too, but I just can't get that first video right." Buddy, you're not gonna get the video right on the first go, okay? Silence that inner critic, tell him to shut up, get out there and do what you gotta do. This course will teach you how to gain control of that puny little inner critic. This here is a helpful course on how to diversify your income and earn passive income. This is money you can get while just sitting on your keister. And if you want people to know your name, marketing your brand or business with video is the perfect course for you. I myself had a blast with the Start a Business and Refine Your Branding course. With what I've learned from this course, I've been able to collaborate with other content creators to improve their branding. Look how fresh Who Chaser is looking now. Yeah, I did that, and I have what I learned from Skillshare to thank. The first 1,000 people to use my link will get a month of Skillshare completely free. A lot can happen in 1 month. Your life could be completely transformed for the better, so why not take a chance, invest in yourself. You got nothing to lose. Thanks to Skillshare for sponsoring this video, and now for the part you've been waiting for. So pretty recently, I made a video on why Sonic Unleashed is my all-time favorite Sonic game. Not only would Sonic Unleashed go on to be one of my favorite games going forward, it was my first Sonic game of my very own. Of course, I played Sonic 1 and 2 on my dad's Mega Drive, but Sonic Unleashed was my first Sonic game. A game that resonated with me so much that it had a ripple effect that led to me going back and playing all of the Sonic games that I'd missed. And this, of course, took me back to the highly beloved at the time Sonic Adventure games. I played through Sonic Story and Sonic Adventure DX and I had a whale of a time. Sure, it was a little dated and antiquated when next to Sonic Unleashed, but I had an amazing experience. I only very lightly dipped into the other characters, and no, I hadn't played the final story at that time. Listen, I've never been a completionist. I'm not the kind of guy that platinums games. I get a lot of people asking me, Pup, how come you've played so much of Sonic Frontiers, yet you haven't platinumed the game yet? I play it because I'm just running around having fun. You know, I'm just enjoying traversal. I enjoy starting a new game and playing it from the start of the story again. Never been too fussed about doing side stuff. I wasn't really one to collect the Chaos Emeralds in the classic games either. So yeah, I kind of completed Sonic and Tails' story in Sonic Adventure DX and left it at that. At the time, I have since completed the entire thing. So naturally, playing Sonic Adventure led me into Sonic Adventure 2. And yeah, City Escape was as awesome as I thought it'd be. More on that later. But I didn't like Sonic Adventure 2. One of the things that I loved so much about Sonic Unleashed and Sonic Adventure 1, something that was integral to the immersion of those games, were the hub worlds, which made Sonic's world feel much more lived in and meaningful. I loved having these areas where I could just chill out. Sonic Adventure 2 does away with that concept. So my first impression with Sonic Adventure 2 was that it felt a little reductive when compared to Sonic Adventure 1. Another thing this game did though is rather than giving each character their own individual story, it instead splits things up into the hero story and the dark story. Because of this, I couldn't just go on like a consecutive run of Sonic levels. You'd be regularly interrupted with mech shooting stages and treasure hunting with Knuckles. The same goes for the dark story, but you swap Sonic out with Shadow, you swap Tails out with Dr. Robotnik, and you swap Knuckles out with Rouge the Bat. Now, with Sonic Adventure 1, yeah, I played Sonic and Tails' story. I think I played Gamma's as well, but I didn't really give Knuckles the time of day. Because at the time, I didn't really care for the treasure hunting, so I played like one level and called it quits. With Sonic Adventure 2, however, you could be playing through Sonic's story, enjoying the high-speed gameplay, and then suddenly you're in an even more challenging version of those Knuckles treasure hunting stages. Ew, was the thought I was thinking back then. I don't want to do this. I want to go fast, which is really funny considering I was like Werehog Defender #1. I didn't really have any sense of critical literacy back then. It must have been like, what, 2009, 2010 was the last time I would play Sonic Adventure 2 until literally 2018. Nearly 10 years later, I would go back and revisit Sonic Adventure 2. Why? Because I found that my Steam security codes were going to my junk mail inbox in my email address. Yeah, I thought I was fully locked out of my Steam account for almost a decade. So of course, when I discover this and I get all my Steam library back, I go check out Sonic Adventure 2 again. Now, it is worth noting where I am at this stage. It's been quite some time since Sonic Unleashed made me a Sonic fan. And I've noticed that Sonic games are getting smaller and smaller. After Sonic Unleashed, we had Sonic Colors, which I wasn't able to get at the time because it was a Wii exclusive. Okay, didn't end up playing that. Sonic Generations comes along, an idea with a lot of story potential, which it doesn't capitalize on. It's a fantastic game and one I love more now than I did back then, but it is notably smaller than Sonic Unleashed. It doesn't quite have what Sonic Unleashed gave me that made me into a Sonic fan. Follow that up with Sonic Lost World, which was a Wii U exclusive for a while, but shortly before the release of Sonic Forces, it was available on PC, so I was able to play it, and it was fine, but, you know, still very distant from what I loved about Sonic Unleashed. And of course, Sonic Forces comes along, and while it's very, you know, different from Sonic Unleashed, while, you know, stylistically it's about as far from Unleashed as Earth is to Alpha Centauri, I really love the idea of a Sonic game just going big, you know, just throwing all in the kitchen sink in. Sonic Forces comes out, and it doesn't do that. It holds back everything. A purely underwhelming experience. So I'm in post-Forces mode at this point, and what I understand of Sonic Adventure 2 is that whether I liked it or not, it goes big. The story goes big. In a lot of ways, this wrote the playbook for what the modern Sonic identity would be. It's like a cult classic action movie. And I was in a position where I had a lot of free time. In the summer, I would go out and visit relatives in another country, and I didn't speak the language out there, and this was a good way for me to kind of detense when I was feeling a little socially exhausted. I came back to Sonic Adventure 2 as an older person. As someone that had just started a YouTube channel talking about movies and games and such, was slowly but surely learning critical literacy, although you wouldn't see evidence of that looking at the Amazing Spider-Man reviews that came out at the time. I may be able to run from the gun truck, but I can't run from my past failures. Coming back to Sonic Adventure 2 was like when you're a kid and you've been shown this like cult classic action movie by your dad and you don't get it as a kid. But then you grow older, you grow more mature, you come back to it, and you see what they saw in it. Because that's very much what Sonic Adventure 2 feels like. It feels like a cult classic action blockbuster. It's not perfect. It shows its age. But at the same time, it's endlessly quotable. It's memorable. It is just a series of iconic set pieces stacked on top of another. You realize that logical cohesion doesn't even matter now. The quality doesn't need to be pristine because this thing has an unmatched energy. It's a pure enigma. A project that exudes so much confidence in the direction it takes that it becomes like a masterpiece in a way. It's uneven, it's rough around the edges, and I love it. This game captivated me. Any free moment I'd get, I'd rush back to my laptop, the headphones would go on, and I would be playing like I was a little kid again. I was an adult at this point. I was in my 20s at this point, and I would be rushing down from the dinner table after scarfing down my meal to go play Sonic Adventure 2. And the fact that I was able to have an experience like that in my 20s is something I do not take for granted. I recently made a list of every iconic moment in the Sonic games. Part of the reason why I committed to just having one moment per game was because if I didn't, this very game right here would probably swamp the list. Sonic snowboarding through San Francisco, being chased by a truck, breaking out of prison, jumping onto a missile, escaping from an island that's about to explode, meeting the president, an Egyptian pyramid opening up to reveal a rocket ship, throwing down with Shadow, racing the rails of the space colony Ark, Dr. Robotnik holding Amy Rose at gunpoint, performing chaos control with a fake emerald, Shadow's origin story, heroes and villains teaming up, Shadow's death. There is so much here that is iconic. This is so utterly memorable. As I say, it's like a cult classic blockbuster. To the point where those Knuckles treasure hunting stages, which previously alienated me, now just became one with that experience. Pumpkin Hill is an iconic location. No matter how bad the rapping is, it's iconic and it's memorable. I missed the hub world as a place to detense, but this story wasn't about detensing. This was all about the tension constantly rising. This is an urgent mission. You don't have time to dilly-dally in the hub worlds. Of course, you do get the Chao area, which has been heavily upgraded since the last game, and I understand that a lot of people spent the majority of their time here, but maybe it's okay to take it slow in the treasure hunting stages as well. It's just a chance to explore different parts of this world at a slightly slower pace. And truth be told, I never had a problem with the mech shooting stages. Not then, not now. Just running around and making things explode, like what's not to love about that, you know? Sonic Adventure 2 just feels like a shot of pure testosterone, which is telling because the only female character we get to play as in this game has a colossal rack. Why? Who knows, but I'm gonna put it down to the popularity of Tomb Raider at the time, and Sonic kind of wanted their own Tomb Raider, I guess.
Sheesh. There always seems to be a lot of police around when you don't need them.
Oh my god, Sonic is so based. This is the most based Sonic game ever. Sonic in this game is anti-cop, anti-military, anti-government, and I love him for it. Even in his early days, Sonic was meant to be a rebel, and this game just takes that to a new extreme of Sonic being utterly anti-establishment. He's not just against the tyranny of Dr. Robotnik, he's up against the government altogether, as he's on the run from the military. Now, it's all a big misunderstanding, and Sonic didn't actually do anything wrong, but that's not going to stop him from sass-talking them. Respect. Sonic Adventure 2 is the Sonic game made for radical leftists, it seems. Now, something that I praised Sonic Adventure and Sonic Unleashed for were their sense of world building. Now, Sonic Unleashed does it on a complete other level, but I'm going to kind of set that aside. I'm going to just talk about Sonic Adventure 2 in reference to what came before, because I think it's a little unfair to compare it to a game that came almost a decade later. Sonic Adventure 1 not only was it a great adventure, but it taught us a little bit about Sonic's world. We saw a little bit of just the world around these zones with the hub worlds, even down to like the public transportation links, Sonic taking the train to the Mystic Ruins. But we also learned a lot about this world's mythology, Chaos, where the Chaos Emeralds come into play, the Echidna tribe, which Knuckles would have belonged to. These all played contributing roles in making everything feel meaningful. With Sonic Adventure 2, we're doing a similar thing. We're learning a bit more about the Robotnik family tree, who Dr. Robotnik's role model was, his grandfather, Gerald Robotnik, how he influenced young Ivo, what he was setting out to do, what his goals were, and how Ivo Robotnik plans on carrying things forward. This is the very first Sonic game to acknowledge the existence of a government. There's a military presence here too. There's a lot more here that mirrors the world we actually live in. Gone are the days of the Green Hill Zone. Here we are in a day and age where Sonic runs through aircraft Harriers. Your opening level is the streets of San Francisco. This game reminds me a lot of the movie Looney Tunes Back in Action, which released at a similar time. It feels like these characters have been plonked into our world for an adventure. Now, in theory, since the real world's a lot more dull than the Sonic world that we know and love, that should be dull, but this story's so bombastic and over the top that Sonic's energy completely carries this thing. It shouldn't work, but it does. And it's not like we're devoid of those high concept locations either. The city streets of Radical Highway were definitely not designed for cars. And Pumpkin Hill is literally a mountainous region with mountains shaped like pumpkins. I think this was really where the split between, say, Sonic's world and the human world began. It's known now that on Sonic's version of Earth, there are areas that are human territories, and there are areas which are more Mobian animal territories. The human areas are a lot more urban, whereas the animal areas are a lot more abstract, and yeah, I feel like this game wrote the playbook for that. It's this game stylistically having its cake and eating it, but it has a good balance. A balance that gets lost in games like, say, Sonic the Hedgehog 2006, where where it's all a little too real, you know? But this is the thing, it's a more realistic area with a government, a military, law enforcement, yet this all contributes to the story's scope being that much larger, the tension being that much greater, which means that giving Sonic just a little dose of realism made this game feel like even more of an escape than ever before. And I feel like that was all very deliberate, especially when you look at the name of the first level and the song that goes with it. This is the reason why I want to see more urban environments in Sonic games going forward. This is the reason why I think a graffiti aesthetic would fit Sonic to his very little tippy toes. Get off Google. This is why Sonic Adventure 2, stylistically for me, is the definitive Sonic game. Nothing here even begins to resemble Mario. It doesn't even begin to feel like Sonic is trying to compete with Mario here. He's doing everything he does so effortlessly, and it is a thing of beauty. Now, in previous Sonic games, while it was very much like Dr. Robotnik's up to no good, you stop him, I feel like since Sonic 3 and Knuckles, Sonic games have done a very good job of giving us a little peek into the world of the antagonist. In Sonic 3 and Knuckles, you could play as Knuckles and see his perspective at a time when Knuckles and Sonic were enemies. Then in Sonic Adventure 1, while you couldn't play as Dr. Robotnik himself, you did get a chance to play as Gamma, a machine born out of Dr. Robotnik's facilities. It's always cool to get to control an antagonistic character, and Sonic Adventure 2 takes that to the next level. As I said earlier, the story is split into the hero and dark stories. And in the dark stories, it's all about the antagonists. In this story, each character has their very own antagonist, the one that they have the greater connection with. And this lines up in the functionality and gameplay mechanics as well. So in the dark story, we get to, for the very first time, play as Dr. Robotnik. And he is the enemy analog for Tails. These two share a gameplay style, these two share the most screen time together in terms of confrontation. Tails interacts a lot more with Dr. Robotnik than Sonic does, which in a lot of ways makes a lot of sense, because Sonic Adventure 1 really set up Tails as someone that's able to take on Dr. Robotnik himself. Now he's actually doing that. Not only that, but the two are inventors. They're both intellectual geniuses. And there's a somewhat respect shared between the two of them. I think the fact that in this game Tails had kind of inherited Dr. Robotnik while Sonic would focus on newer villains was such a cool concept, which I am damn frustrated to see has not returned, because this dynamic was freaking awesome. The enemy analog for Knuckles is Rouge the Bat. Yep, that's right, Rouge plays the antagonistic figure in Knuckles' side of the story. They're both treasure hunters, they both want the Master Emerald, except Rouge is also a double agent for Gun and is working alongside Dr. Robotnik. And then of course we got the man of the hour himself, Sonic the Hedgehog, and his enemy analog, Shadow the Hedgehog. And yes, these are both the speed type characters. They both share a gameplay style. Now imagine Sonic the Hedgehog's design, but now it's a little more fierce looking. Now he looks more like a warrior. He's got that kabuki mask aesthetic to him. Yeah, that's what Shadow the Hedgehog is. Take the fun-loving attitude of Sonic the Hedgehog and change it to someone who's all business, feeling vengeful, determined, a man on a revenge quest. There you have Shadow the Hedgehog. With Sonic, and I quote him here, "What you see is what you get, just a guy that loves adventure." With Shadow, you've got a broken man on a revenge quest. The three characters on the hero side and the three characters on the dark side are the yin to each other's yang. Which also makes sense considering that the logo is clearly aping the yin and yang aesthetic. I love that so very much. Oh my god. It also means that while we got 6 playable characters, there are only 3 playstyles that you need to get used to, so things have been slimmed up a little bit since Sonic Adventure 1. You could call it reductive, I for one would call it streamlined. But also each character sharing a gameplay style with their antagonist character shows that these people aren't really so different. And Sonic Adventure 2 is all about the heroes and the villains coming together. It's a convergence of 2 sides. So what is Dr. Robotnik up to this time? time. So Dr. Robotnik has been reading the diary of his late grandfather, Dr. Gerald Robotnik, where he learns of a secret weapon sealed within a GUN black site, an ultimate life form. This is revealed to be Shadow the Hedgehog, who offers Dr. Robotnik a chance to conquer the world. So Dr. Robotnik enlists Shadow's help to find Chaos Emeralds to install into the Eclipse cannon aboard his grandfather's space colony Ark, a cannon with the capability of destroying Earth. Dr. Robotnik can use this to hold the world at gunpoint and conquer. But why does Shadow want to help Dr. Robotnik? So let's talk a little about Shadow now. Shadow was the creation of Dr. Robotnik's grandfather, Gerald. Gerald Robotnik wanted to create an ultimate life form as a means of discovering the key to immortality, as a means of curing his ailing granddaughter, Maria, who was suffering from a disease known as NIDS. Now, NIDS is basically the same as AIDS, except it is not sexually transmitted. I mean, if it is, they omit that part, but I mean, she's a child. Get your freaking mind out the gutter, DeviantArt. So the reason the AIDS comparison is made is because it basically shuts down the body's defenses. Maria Robotnik is dying. Shadow the Hedgehog is the ultimate life form, the key to discovering the secret to immortality. Shadow is the key to curing Maria Robotnik. But all of this research is top secret because the military would never allow it. So outside of Maria and Gerald, Shadow has had very minimal human interaction. How does Gerald keep it all a secret? He does it all on the space colony Ark, which is disguised as a moon. GUN, the military, catch wind of this, they infiltrate the space colony Ark, they gun down Maria Robotnik, shooting her dead. Shadow witnesses this. He's then sent down to Earth where he's held in stasis for decades. So once he gets out, he wants to burn the world. As far as he's concerned, he's seen humanity's true colors. His recollection of events is a little hazy given that he's been asleep all this time, but he knows what he has to do. And no amount of good faith idealists like Sonic the Hedgehog are going to stand in his way. So Shadow's plan is to help Dr. Robotnik fuel the Eclipse cannon so that he can conquer the world, only for Shadow to destroy it, using said Eclipse cannon. Shadow is unreasonable, he's unrelenting. And one thing I like about Shadow is that he's kinda childlike in a way. He's very naive, he's witnessed one atrocity and now he thinks he's seen the entire true colors of the world below. He is firmly set in these ways. And evidence of this is how he responds to Sonic, particularly later in the game, how shocked he is that Sonic really is as idealistic as his facade. That, no, Sonic really is just what you see is what you get. This means that through Shadow, a lot of the character of Sonic is reinforced here. And this game really explores the idea of Sonic as an idealistic figure. This is a clash of two ideologies. The destructive nihilism and cynicism of Shadow the Hedgehog as an opposing force to Sonic's carefree idealistic views. In the spirit of opposing ideologies coming together, we also enter Rouge the Bat. Rouge the Bat is a part-time treasure hunter, part-time GUN spy, and she's keeping tabs on Shadow and Dr. Robotnik for the government. And to gain their trust, she kind of joins their team. She helps them to find Chaos Emeralds for the Eclipse cannon. However, she ends up gaining sympathy for Shadow. Not only that, she also gains sentimental feelings for Knuckles as well, who she's trying to steal the Master Emerald from. Being completely honest, you could probably cut Knuckles out of this story altogether and trim down Rouge's role by half. Also, the fact that she gets such sentimental feelings towards people she's supposed to be working against proves that she's not only a pretty terrible treasure hunter, but a pretty terrible double agent as well. No offense, Rouge, but you are incompetent. Each character has their reasons, though, their motivations, which make them compelling to play. And those gameplay styles ain't half bad either. The high-speed gameplay is easily the best of the gameplay styles. That's the one you come to a Sonic game for. I am kind of more forgiving towards the Sonic Adventure games having lots of other gameplay styles, though, because clues in the title, Adventure, it's a bit more of a broad strokes look at Sonic, and I'm fine with that. Even if I think it would have been a really cool idea to have started Sonic's 3D tenure with a game that is just Sonic through and through, better late than never. And this is still not to be sneezed at. The high-speed stages here are more exhilarating than they were in the first Sonic Adventure game. They're a little less open now, but they're a lot more kinetic, without losing that emphasis on platforming. Plus, you still keep your sort of upper and lower path philosophy like you had in the classic Sonic games. In some ways, these are a little closer to the classic Sonic level design philosophy than what we had in Sonic Adventure 1, where things were widened up quite significantly, which I did enjoy, but at the same time, Sonic Adventure 2 through and through feels like a much more focused game, and these level designs feel, once again, a lot more focused. And yeah, there's a certain thrill factor here. It all feels very cinematic, it all feels very high energy, which is very much uniform with the rest of this game. There's nothing lackadaisical about this, you never feel like you're going for a stroll. There's also a lot less stopping and starting as well, and this is in many ways thanks to the newly upgraded Light Dash. Previously, if you wanted to do a light dash along a trail of rings, you'd have to charge it up using the spin dash. Now it can be done in a split second with the touch of a button. We also have other new moves such as the bounce bracelet and the somersault, which can make quick work of intricate platforming sections. Many of these abilities you earn along the way as well, but perhaps the most innovative feature in Sonic Adventure is the rail grinding, which would go on to become a staple of modern Sonic level design for years to come. Sonic, now equipped with his soap rail grinding shoes, can grind rails. But there's quite a bit of skill to this. You can crouch onto the rail, you can lean in different directions, you gotta make sure that you don't fall off of the rail. In stages like Final Rush, where it's almost entirely rails, you've really got to make sure you master this ability, and accurate jumps are integral. In later games, rail grinding would go on to feel more like an automated section where you just watch Sonic grind a rail. Here, it actually really required a lot of skill, and accurate jumping to ensure you'd actually land on the rail. This didn't make the game feel more automated, it made it more challenging. Not to mention, if you don't approach the rail with enough momentum, you will not be grinding for long. Moving over to the shooting style of gameplay, this is very similar to what E102 Gamma had in Sonic Adventure 1, except it's a little more streamlined this time. You pick up new moves along the way, such as being able to glide with a little jetpack or shoot more powerful missiles, but like with the Gamma stages, these are all about locking on with your laser sight and just going pew pew pew, making things blow up, which is just great fun. Now, I'm gonna say this, these stages aren't completely at odds with the Sonic level design philosophy. No, these aren't the signature high-speed gameplay that we're used to, but to be fair, you can gain a little momentum with these mechs and get them moving fairly fast. There's lots of platforming involved, and these stages can be speedrun. It's even rewarding to clear a level in a certain amount of time, so yeah, it's not that far of a cry from the Sonic level design philosophy. It's different, it's a different approach, but I didn't find it to be completely at odds, and a similar thing goes for the treasure hunting stages, which, alright, I guess I'll talk about these a little more. They're a lot bigger than they were in Sonic Adventure 1. In Sonic Adventure 1, the Knuckles treasure hunting stages would be kept to fairly confined spaces, meaning that you were never too far away from a Chaos Emerald, not to mention that the little radar that seeks them out would seek them out a little more efficaciously than it does in this game. In this game here, you're more relying on approaching monitors to give you very cryptic clues to figure out where the Chaos Emerald is, and your radar will only discover one at a time. Not to mention they are all randomly placed, so no, looking up a walkthrough is not going to help you with this. This means that if you don't vibe with the Knuckles stages like the younger me didn't, well, tough luck, I guess. But it is rewarding to explore these levels, learn what the geography of these stages are, and then the little cryptic messages on the monitors make a lot more sense. For example, if you just start Pumpkin Hill and you go to a monitor and it's like, it's on the train mountain, but you haven't seen the train mountain before, you're not going to know what it's talking about. Once you're more familiar with these stages, it gets a lot simpler to understand these little cryptic prompts. But that's always been quite a factor in the classic Sonic level design philosophy, is once you know these stages better, you will be able to clear them faster, and the same is absolutely true of these treasure hunting stages. Pumpkin Hill used to take me around 40 minutes to complete, now I can complete it in about 10. And maybe that's still not that impressive, but screw you, it's the best I can do right now. I'll also say this, widening up these stages actually makes an okay substitute for the hub worlds. Not to mention that you will be seeing familiar aspects of these designs in other stages. For example, you could be playing Skyrail. You will see the Pumpkin Mountains from Pumpkin Hill in the background of Skyrail. A stage that we're now speeding through in the daytime, yet previously we got to just run around it leisurely. These stages kind of give back that explorative element that we had in Sonic Adventure 1. I do still prefer the hub worlds, but I can see why they were omitted for this game, because it was meant to be a very intense, high energy, non-stop adventure experience. I get it. Now, the gameplay in Sonic Adventure 2 isn't perfect. When people talk about what's great about Sonic Adventure 2, it tends to be more the story or the set pieces than the gameplay itself. And I'll say this, the gameplay certainly has its moments, but it is actually one of the weaker aspects of this game, which I find all the more telling though. It speaks more for Sonic Adventure 2 than against it. This is a little rough around the edges. It's better than it was in Sonic Adventure 1 in my opinion, but as I say, Sonic Adventure 2 is very rough around the edges. It is prone to technical hitches, bugs, unfair deaths, poor telegraphing, bad camera angles. It's by no means a bad experience, but these problems are there and I'd be lying if I denied their existence. The homing attack can sometimes just betray you when it doesn't lock onto an enemy like you would expect it to. And I could forgive it being worse than later games in the series, but the fact that it's not as precise as it was in Sonic Adventure 1 is kind of an issue. The light speed dash, the bounce bracelet, and the somersault are all on one button, so you could find that you go to light dash a set of rings and accidentally end up bounce braceleting your way into the sea. There are way more buttons on the controller than this. You don't need to put it all on one button. Again, this is by no means a bad gameplay experience, but again, there are these little immersion breakers in there. There will be times where you're at an unfair disadvantage with this game. It will happen. There will be times when you're just walking along and without warning an anvil just drops on your head. And I do understand that part of Sonic's level design philosophy is you learn where the traps and hazards are, but they should still at least be telegraphed on the first playthrough, so it's not completely unfair. Outside of, say, the Metropolis Zone and pretty much all of Sonic 1, the classic games did a pretty good job with this, and Sonic Adventure 1 also did, I guess, a little bit of a better job with this than Sonic Adventure 2 does. With that said, for all of its shortcomings, I feel like Sonic Adventure 2 more than makes up for this. What makes this gameplay experience so good is the compelling narrative. But I do also want to state, from a writing standpoint, this is by no means airtight either. As I say, cult classic blockbuster movie where its ideas and its heart are in the right place, that doesn't necessarily mean it's well written as such. Thematically speaking, there's a lot in Sonic Adventure 2 that I love, but I would be lying if I said this poorly translated dialogue made sense half of the time. There's a lot of just badly translated stuff in here. You can tell that this was just translated from Japanese to English with minimal westernization, which, I mean, I'll take that over westernization like what we got with games like Sonic Colors and Sonic Generations. But even so, yeah, there's a lot of clunkers in the dialogue in this game. In some ways, though, that only makes it more quotable.
Now I know what's going on. The military has mistaken me for the likes of you. So, where do you think you're going with that emerald? Say something, you fake hedgehog!
Why is Sonic calling Shadow a fake hedgehog when he could just call him like a fake Sonic, you know? Like, just because he's not you, Sonic, that doesn't mean he's not a hedgehog. This is just one of many examples. There's also plenty of questionable stuff as well. Why does Eggman have a space shuttle in his pyramid base when he's literally got a teleportation pad? Why are the pyramids just a very short trek away from San Francisco? It's questionable, I won't lie, but to be fair, this is Sonic's world. In fairness, in Sonic's world, you could have the pyramids right next to San Francisco. They never explicitly refer to any of this as Egypt or America or San Francisco or anything like that. And it is kind of known that Sonic's world is different from the real world, even if it does have influence from the real world in there. So aboard the Space Colony arc is where things get really intense. So Tails has created a synthetic Chaos Emerald to block the Eclipse Cannon and destroy it. It shares the majority of its properties with a real Chaos Emerald, but it's just different enough to ruin Eggman's plans for good. But Robotnik sees right through this. Sorry, I flip-flop between the names Eggman and Robotnik constantly. For anyone confused, they're the same character. Why would you be confused? You're watching this video as a fan. You know who it is. As Sonic is about to deploy the fake emerald, Dr. Robotnik holds Tails and Amy ransom, forcing Sonic to come back with the fake emerald, which he offers to Dr. Robotnik. But Dr. Robotnik sees right through this and jettisons Sonic out into space to his death. Tails doesn't have time to mourn. He kicks Eggman's ass. And it all transpires that Sonic survived, as the fake emerald was just similar enough to a real one that Sonic was able to perform chaos control with it and teleport himself out of there to safety. Yeah, so little contrived, but I mean, it's literally Sonic Adventure 2. Like, contrived is this game's middle name, and it uses its contrivances to be kind of epic, so I forgive it. I'm not mad. Is this good faith praise is, I don't know, but I'm just like, you know, if you're gonna have contrivances, have them amount to something good, and this game does that. It absolutely does that, so I can't even be mad. However, this has bought Dr. Robotnik just enough time to arm the Eclipse Cannon. What he doesn't realize, though, is what his grandfather's plans were. After the government killed his colleagues, including his beloved granddaughter Maria, Gerald Robotnik went insane and started sharing a similar philosophy to what Shadow does. This is what true humanity is, the willingness to kill. Destructive, cruel, and unjust. I'm gonna destroy the world. So he programmed it so that once the Eclipse Cannon is armed, the space colony arc will start heading for Earth. And when it collides, boom, the end. Like a meteor taking out the dinosaurs. Shadow's pretty chill about this, but Eggman ain't too pleased. He didn't want to destroy the Earth immediately, and he's gonna die aboard the space colony arc if nothing gets done. So he's forced into another reluctant alliance with Sonic and friends. Amy is the one to get through to Shadow. She pleads for his help. And while this isn't really explored, Amy does offer sort of a sense of compassion that Shadow only really got from Maria Robotnik. Yeah, it could be explored a little more, but he kind of sees Maria in Amy. It's Amy that talks Shadow out of his vengeful, destructive ways. It's Amy that jogs his memory to where Maria was pleading him to protect the people on the Earth below. Shadow is now officially neutralized. Sonic and Knuckles head for the core to stop the space colony arc's collision with Earth, but are intercepted by the Bio Lizard, a monster that was a prototype for the ultimate life form. Not sure how you go from giant lizard to Hedgehog, but okay. And this is where Shadow joins the fight, fights off the Bio Lizard. It seems like the Bio Lizard is defeated, but then it uses Chaos Control to transform into the final Hazard, fusing with the space colony arc and bringing it to Earth. So there's no other choice now. Sonic and Shadow must go super together to defeat the Bio Lizard and stop the space colony arc on its collision course. They defeat the Bio Lizard, Sonic manages to get away back aboard the space colony arc, which is no longer on its collision course. Shadow, on the other hand, falls, having sacrificed himself to save the world that he was previously hell-bent on destroying. And so, Shadow, the misguided little loner that he is, dies a hero. And after this, we get an ending with all of the characters aboard the space colony arc discussing the events that just happened, reflecting on it, paying tribute to Shadow the Hedgehog. Heck, Dr. Robotnik is even re-evaluating his evil ways, reflecting on his grandfather, and I like to think that it's Tails' tone-deaf response here that continued Eggman on the path of evil.
I looked up to my grandfather because of all the great things he accomplished in his life. He was my hero, and I wanted to be a great scientist like him. But did he really mean to destroy us?
I don't know. But what I do know is, we all did it together!
You're right.
Making Tails to blame for everything that went wrong after this. There's a sense of finality that comes with Sonic Adventure 2's final act. I mean, okay, I would expect a final act to have finality to it, but there's a weird somber feeling to Sonic Adventure 2. It feels like this could be the very final Sonic game. It's all of the ideologies of the Sonic universe coming together. This is a story where the heroes of today, the new generation, have to stop the past from catching up to the world we live in today. This is a story about making things right. So while it's contrived in a lot of areas, while the dialogue is horrendously translated, thematically, Sonic Adventure 2 feels like a culmination for the Sonic franchise. While yes, they've gone bigger in scope, for example, in Sonic the Hedgehog 2006, we see all of time and space hanging in the balance, or Sonic Forces where 99% of the world is taken over by Dr. Robotnik, it doesn't feel like any Sonic game has ever really gone bigger than this. While yes, the stakes have been higher, I don't think they've ever felt so thematically cathartic. Sonic Adventure 1 felt like very much a spiritual successor to the classic Sonic games, narratively speaking. There's a nice sense of world building here. It ultimately amounts to a fairly high concept escapism. It's a pretty simple action adventure. I feel like Sonic Adventure 2 though is the game that established that Sonic can do more with a storyline. These characters are not Mickey Mouse. These characters are not Winnie the Pooh. They might look cute and cuddly, but you can do cool, serious things with these characters. They have histories. Their worlds reflect our own. They have ideologies that will conflict with one another. A Sonic game could be completely character-driven. There's a mentality nowadays, and I've mentioned this in a previous video, that Sonic games don't need to be heavy on story. And they don't need to be, but why shouldn't they be? I hate this mentality that because the Sonic characters look cute and cuddly, they therefore have no right to be epic. Sonic Adventure 2 is an epic through and through. It's a quintessential action-adventure story. While individual elements of this game are not to a high standard or a particularly high quality, for example, the gameplay can be buggy and glitchy and poorly telegraphed, the story is really badly translated, it still all comes together in something that is a very unique, very high-octane video game experience. It's a game that absolutely rewards you for sticking with it. It's a game that doesn't talk down to the player. There are a few more things to talk about. The Chao Garden has been expanded upon. There's now a lobby, there's a school, you can really go in depth with raising your Chao. And like in Sonic Adventure 1, collectibles that you'll find in different enemies throughout the stages in the main story campaign can be brought over to the Chaos as food to help them grow. And what you feed them ultimately influences your Chao's appearance, your Chao's skills, and you can use that to compete. And now you can create things like Dark Chao, Neutral Chao, Hero Chao. A lot of people found this to be very addicting. I'm gonna be real, I barely touched it. I'm not much into these virtual pet kind of experiences. And if I am, I'd rather have a Nintendo because I just prefer dogs to Chao, but that's just me. I get why this proved to be so engaging for so many people. Another thing we must talk about, though, is the soundtrack. This soundtrack is a bit of a departure from Sonic Adventure 1. Still led by Jun Senoue, and it definitely shares some common styles, but it's a lot heavier this time around. In Sonic Adventure 1, we explored a lot more different genres. We had more funk, more jazz. And Sonic Adventure 2 kind of does away with that, in favor of committing more to rock. You've got a much more intrinsically rock soundtrack for this one, which makes sense as it is overall a much more high-energy game than Sonic Adventure 1 was. This music doesn't just accompany the atmosphere, it also accompanies the storyline. There are still a few different styles in there, and you can definitely tell from character to character. Sonic is just pure early 2000s rock music. Knuckles has god-awful rap music, which is just god-awful in all the right ways, for it to loop back round and become ironically awesome. Tails basically just gets total guitar solos. Robotnik still has rock music, but it's got a slightly more electronic influence to it. Shadow's music's a little more grunge-inspired, and Rouge gets lounge-inspired music. There's less genre diversity here than what we had in Sonic Adventure 1, even if there is still a little, but this soundtrack kicks ass. I think my absolute favorite side to this soundtrack is Tails' tracks. Just listen to Eternal Engine. Jun Senoue is absolutely making love to his guitar, and it sounds incredible. Pure silk on the ears. And of course, there is the show-stopping main theme, Live and Learn.
But you can hardly swallow your fears and pain when you can't help but follow and put you right back where you came. Live and learn, hanging on the edge of tomorrow. Live and learn from the works of yesterday.
Commonly, when there are Sonic-themed concerts, be it the Sonic Symphony or the Sonic Boom event or the Summer of Sonic, you'll end with Live and Learn. For a damn good reason. This is the fan-favorite Sonic vocal track, arguably the quintessential vocal track, the anthem of the modern Sonic, and I can fully see why. This theme is amazing, and it means that Sonic Adventure 2 as an experience is bookended by two incredible vocal tracks. You've got Escape from the City, which is the first stage in the game. The first impression we get with this, provided you're playing the hero story, is Sonic snowboarding down San Francisco, set to a vocal track, something we haven't really seen in a Sonic stage before. And Escape from the City is the catchiest song you will ever hear in your entire life.
Must keep on moving ahead. No time for guessing, follow my pen instead. Trusting in what you can see. Take my lead, I'll set you free. Follow me, set me free. Trust me and we will escape from the city. I'll make it through. Follow me, set me free. Trust me and we will escape from the city. I'll make it through, prove it to you. Follow me.
Even people that aren't Sonic fans know Escape from the City. So yeah, the soundtrack is absolutely a worthy follow-up to the Sonic Adventure 1 soundtrack, and probably one of my favorite Sonic soundtracks, full stop. Sonic Adventure 2. Whether it is your favorite Sonic game or not, personally, it's absolutely one of my favorite Sonic games. It had probably one of the biggest impacts on the Sonic series going forward. This game kind of wrote the playbook for what modern Sonic is. This is, in many ways, the purest modern Sonic experience you can get. This was the game that expanded what a Sonic story could do. This was the game that put its foot down and said, Sonic the Hedgehog is not Mickey Mouse. This was the Sonic game that set out to completely transcend all expectations and blow the player away. This game firmly reinforced Sonic as an action-adventure, high-concept franchise. This game also brought many recurring characters to the table. Shadow the Hedgehog had such an influence in this game that narrative be damned, they brought him back. Even being one of the few Sonic characters to get their own spin-off game, for better or for worse, and in this case certainly worse. Not only that, we saw Rouge the Bat again too. In the marketing of Sonic Generations, the 20th anniversary title that would bring all the levels back, there were two stages which got the lion's share of the publicity. The main one being Green Hill Zone, the representative of classic Sonic, but City Escape got its very own trailer as well, and you can see why. When you think modern Sonic stages, City Escape is probably one of the first stages that comes to mind, and I can completely see why. While this more serious, somber approach to Sonic the Hedgehog may have been done away with come Sonic Heroes, this game laid down the groundwork so that more intense stories like Sonic Frontiers could go ahead. And I'm thrilled to see with, say, Sonic Frontiers that we are returning a little more to this style of Sonic. A Sonic that can do more. Sonic Adventure 2 was the complete and total expansion of what a Sonic game could be. I adore this game. And remember, I didn't grow up with it. I only really properly played this game in 2018, 5 years ago. And I absolutely fell in love, head over heels, with this game. And it's no mystery as to why. Sonic Adventure 2 is one of my favorite Sonic games. We're not done yet though. I want to commit to doing videos on all of the Sonic games that I would consider my favorite. These are games where there is no number one. I don't consider Sonic Adventure 2 to be better than Sonic Unleashed, and I don't consider Sonic Unleashed to be better than Sonic Adventure 2. More polished, sure, like, you know, that stuff, so, you know, I'd definitely say that, you know, Sonic Adventure 2 is a less polished game than, say, Sonic Unleashed. Go figure, Sonic Unleashed came out a lot later than Sonic Adventure 2. I would hope it would be more polished. But you catch my drift. So what do you guys think of Sonic Adventure 2? Did I make any points here that you maybe didn't really discover until now? Or am I just preaching to the choir? Do you hate this game? You know, I just want to know what you guys think. That's what the comment section below is for. Now, I quickly want to cap off this situation by talking a little bit about where I'm at right now, because as you guys know, one of my most recent videos I posted was that I am in a situation where I am right now legally homeless. I have a roof over my head, that's fine, I'm safe, don't worry guys, I'm living with my good pal Sam, but I don't want to outstay my welcome here. I'm sleeping on his kitchen floor with an air mattress, and I'm currently searching for employment. I've got a few interviews coming up, but I have let the audience, you guys, in on the situation, and the amount of support I have received is absolutely mind-blowing. You guys have been absolutely amazing. So I just wanted to take this moment to thank this incredible community. Guys, I couldn't be more proud. There's been times where I've been a little skeptical about my future on YouTube. Like about a year ago last summer and stuff like that. I've been wondering, am I going to be alright? At the end of the day, none of it matters because I have got a community that I know has my back, and I don't need you guys to necessarily donate, but I know that you guys care. I know that you guys are there for me, and I know that when the chips are down, we band together and we are a community. And it's really renewed a lot of my love for doing this. I love doing YouTube again. I don't need to make a huge amount of money out of this. I love doing this, and I love you guys as a community, and I'm so proud and I'm so happy. Of course, it's still not like a simple clear-cut matter. I still need a little help along the way. Things like, tenancy deposits and stuff like that. So I am putting donation links in the description below. There's also like Patreon, and there is of course the super thanks button on YouTube. I never expect anyone to necessarily contribute in these things. Of course, if you do though, it is hugely appreciated, but I don't take it for granted. We also had the Sonic Frontiers live stream where we completed the game in like 9 hours. And I was really happy to see how people were engaging with that. It did raise a good amount of money as well, so I'm thrilled. This could have been a really trying time in my life so far, but you guys, and of course my friends that are looking after me and everything as well, have made it just a great time to be alive. And I don't take any of it for granted, so big love, my heart goes out to all of you. And if you did make a donation so far, the shout out is at the start of the Sonic Frontiers live stream, just after the technical hitches, and then there's a few more like readouts at the very end as well. With all that being said, I'm gonna let you go now. That's enough of the e-begging for now, alright? There's future videos for that. Until the next time, guys, I love you, take it easy, bye-bye. I say, you've made it to the end of the video! Congrats. No, but seriously, thanks a bunch for watching. And just now, I'll be extending a special thanks to the patrons in the $10 tier, who are Adam Myers, Ken K, Legendary Ray Ray, Mr. SP, Sergio, That Jordo, and Where's Arnold? What an amazing and generous bunch of people. Thank you guys so much for your support. And if you want to join the ranks of these amazing people right here, the link to my Patreon is in the description below. Guys, these are not the easiest times in the world financially, so every little bit you folks are donating is doing wonders. I really would love to be able to do YouTube as a proper fully fledged career someday. It might just be a pipe dream, but maybe you guys can prove some people wrong. But of course, if donations aren't your thing, then, well, it means plenty to me that you just hit that cute little subscribe button over there. I didn't mean hit that way. Well, that's me done for the day. Thanks a whole bunch for your support, and have a fantastic day. I'm gonna see you so soon.